All right, so today we're going to be diving into, well, the world of PSYOPs.
Psychological operations.
Yeah, exactly. We're breaking down this YouTube video. It's by this guy, Chase Hughes.
He describes himself as a behavior expert.
Yeah, and I guess he's got some kind of military background, too.
Right, and the title of the video is, well, pretty bold. It's called, Once You Know This, Every PSYOP Becomes Obvious.
Okay, so like instant expertise, is that what he's saying?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if we could just, see right through it all, like all the manipulation tactics in the media and politics and even just everyday life.
Well, that's what he claims you can do.
Interesting. I mean, it'd be kind of cool to have that kind of superpower, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely a useful skill set, especially these days. I mean, think about it. We're constantly bombarded with information. Everyone's trying to get our attention, tell us what to think, what to buy, who to vote for.
Yeah, for sure. So where does this Chase Hughes guy, where does he even start?
Well, he jumps right in with his model he calls FATE.
FTE. Like destiny.
Not exactly. It stands for Focus, Authority, Tribe, and Emotion. He says, these are the levers that, well, manipulators use to try and, influence our behavior.
So they're like playing us like puppets.
In a way, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it. Those late night infomercials.
Oh yeah, the ones that make you feel like you're going to miss out if you don't buy their product right now.
Exactly. They prey on our fear. Or those political ads that try to stir up anger.
Yeah, the ones that make you want to like scream at the TV.
Right. They're trying to trigger those primal instincts, those emotional responses that bypass our logical thinking.
It's like they're hacking our brains. So, okay, let's break this FATE thing down a little. Where do we start?
Well, Hughes starts with focus.
Yeah.
He says PSYOPs, they try to hijack your attention. They do it through repetition.
Oh, like that earworm song that you just can't get out of your head?
Yeah, kinda. Or think about like the 24/7 news cycle as constant. And then there's the fear mongering. They use words like unprecedented breaking news all the time.
Yeah, it's like every day is the end of the world, so it makes you feel like you have to pay attention, right? Like you can't miss a thing.
Exactly. It creates this sense of urgency. Like you have to accept their narrative because something terrible might happen if you don't.
Okay, I see how that works. And then there's authority, right? That's the second part of FATE.
Right. We're kind of conditioned to trust authority figures, experts, people in positions of power.
I mean, it makes sense, right? You figure they know what they're talking about.
Yeah. But Hughes warns us to be careful because sometimes those experts are speaking outside their field of expertise.
It's like a celebrity endorsing like a new type of cryptocurrency or something.
Exactly. Just because someone's famous or has a fancy title doesn't make them an expert on everything.
Right. So always got to think about the source and their motives. Okay, so we got focus and authority. What about tribe?
This one's all about belonging. It's that classic us versus them.
Oh, like sports teams.
Yeah, or political parties. You see it everywhere. In advertising, on social media. It's all about creating those in-group and out-group dynamics. They make you feel like you have to pick a side.
So if you're not with us, you're against us.
Pretty much. And once you've chosen your tribe, it's hard to see the other side's point of view.
Yeah, you get sucked into the groupthink, you stop questioning things, even when maybe you should. It's like blind loyalty. Okay, so we've got focus, authority, and tribe. What's the last one?
Emotion. This one's huge. I mean, emotions are powerful, especially fear and outrage.
Oh, yeah, like those news stories that make your blood boil.
Exactly. And Hughes says that those strong emotions, they kind of short-circuit our critical thinking.
Yeah, I know when I'm feeling angry or scared, I'm not exactly making the most rational decisions.
It's totally natural. When we're overwhelmed with those strong emotions, our brains go into fight or flight mode.
It's like we're not even thinking straight, we're just reacting. So these manipulators, they know how to push our buttons, right?
Exactly. They trigger those emotional responses to get us to do what they want. Think about those images of empty grocery store shelves during the pandemic.
Oh yeah, everyone was freaking out.
Right. I mean, did they really reflect the overall supply situation? Maybe, maybe not. But they definitely triggered panic.
Yeah, people were hoarding toilet paper like it was going out of style. Okay, so that's the FATE model. Focus, authority, tribe, and emotion. Pretty sneaky stuff, huh?
Yeah, but Hughes says that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more to be aware of.
Oh man, I'm kind of scared to even ask. What else is there?
Well, he says that, our brains are hardwired to notice change. Novelty, he calls it.
Like shiny objects.
Kinda, yeah. It's like From an evolutionary standpoint, it makes sense, right? Our ancestors had to be aware of changes in their environment.
Yeah, like a saber-toothed tiger hiding in the bushes.
Exactly. So we're wired to notice new things, unexpected things. But in today's world, well, that instinct can be used against us.
So, like, clickbait headlines.
Yeah. Or those breaking news alerts that turn out to be nothing important. They're playing on our novelty bias.
So how do we avoid falling for that?
Well, first you have to be aware of it, right? When something grabs your attention, take a step back. Ask yourself, why am I so interested in this? What's the bigger picture here?
That's a good point. Don't let the novelty hijack your attention. Okay, what else do we have to watch out for?
Well, Hughes talks about these things called echo chambers.
Echo chambers. Like where you only hear your own voice?
Kind of, yeah. It's when you're only exposed to information that confirms your existing beliefs. You know, like when all the media outlets are saying the same thing.
Oh yeah, like groupthink on a massive scale.
Exactly. And it can be really persuasive, especially if you already agree with the narrative. But just because everyone's saying it doesn't make it true.
Okay, so how do we break out of these echo chambers?
Well, you got to be willing to listen to different perspectives, even if you don't agree with them. Read news from sources you wouldn't normally read. Talk to people who have different views than you.
So basically you're saying I need to step outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah, pretty much. It's not always comfortable, but it's important. You have to be willing to challenge your own beliefs.
Okay, so avoid echo chambers. Check. What else is there? This is a lot to keep track of.
And then there's this thing he calls, well, it's a mouthful, cognitive dissonance weapons.
Cognitive dissonance weapons? That sounds intense. What are those?
Well, cognitive dissonance is basically that uncomfortable feeling you get when you encounter information that conflicts with your beliefs.
Oh, yeah. I hate that feeling. It's like, I don't know what to believe anymore.
Well, manipulators, they know how to use that discomfort to their advantage. They use these things called microagreements.
Microagreements. What are those?
They're these little concessions, you know. They seem harmless at first, but they're designed to gradually shift your beliefs over time.
So it's like they're slowly brainwashing you.
Kind of, yeah. They might start with something you agree with, and then slowly introduce more extreme ideas.
Can you give me an example? I'm not sure I'm following.
Okay, sure. Let's say a political campaign starts with this message. Good citizens care about the environment.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that. I care about the environment.
Right, so do I. But they might follow that up with, and good citizens support this specific environmental policy.
I see what you mean. So now they're linking my identity as a good citizen to their political agenda.
Exactly. It's subtle, but it's effective. They're playing on your desire to be seen as a good person.
Wow, that's sneaky. And it's not just limited to politics, right?
Nope, it's everywhere. Advertisers use it all the time.
Okay, so watch out for microagreements. Got it. Anything else?
He talks about emotional scripts.
Emotional scripts? Sounds like a movie.
Kind of. He says it's like, we have these pre-programmed emotional responses hardwired into our brains.
Oh, like our fight or flight response.
Exactly. And, well, those emotional responses, they often bypass our logical thinking.
Okay, I'm starting to see where this is going. So these manipulators, they can trigger those emotional responses to get us to act in a certain way.
Right. Think about a politician saying something like, if we don't act now, our children won't have a future.
Oh, yeah, I hate that kind of fear-mongering.
But it's effective, right? It plays on our instinct to protect our loved ones.
Yeah, it creates this sense of urgency, even if there's no real evidence to back it up. So what's the antidote to these emotional scripts?
Hugh says we got to focus on the facts.
So, like, when you feel those emotional triggers firing, take a deep breath and ask yourself, is there any evidence to support this? Or am I just reacting emotionally?
Exactly. Don't let your emotions cloud your judgment.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get the hang of this. We've got to be aware of FATE, novelty bias, cognitive dissonance weapons, emotional scripts. Anything else?
Oh yeah, there's more.
Seriously, like how much more?
Hughes has a few more tricks up his sleeve.
Oh man, this is getting deep. I'm not sure if I'm ready for this.
But trust me, it's worth exploring. It's all about becoming more aware, more discerning, more in control of our own minds.
All right, fine. You've convinced me. Let's do this. What else does this Hughes guy have to say?
Well, he says one of the best ways to spot manipulation is to, simple really, follow the money.
Follow the money. That's it. So it's kind of vague.
Well, it's more than just, following the literal money trail. It's about understanding who benefits from a particular narrative.
Okay. So who's profiting from this? What are their motives?
Exactly. Look at the funding sources, the sponsorships, the political connections. Who stands to gain the most from this message or this campaign?
Okay, so we're like detectives now.
Kind of, yeah. Let's say there's this big push for a new law, right? And it sounds great on the surface, but then you dig a little deeper and find out that, oh, it's being heavily lobbied for by like one specific industry.
So it might not be about what's best for everyone. It might just be about what's best for them.
Exactly. There are often hidden agendas at play. Motives can be complex.
Okay, so follow the money. Got it. What else?
Well, he also talks about the importance of context. Manipulators, they often try to shift the context to make extreme behavior seem normal.
Can you give me an example of that?
Well, think about how certain actions or policies that would normally be considered unacceptable might suddenly become okay during a time of crisis.
Oh, like when they increase surveillance after a terrorist attack.
Exactly. Or, when they limit personal freedoms in the name of safety.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's like they're using the crisis to justify actions that they couldn't get away with otherwise.
Right. So it's important to be aware of how context can be manipulated. When something happens that's scary or unsettling, ask yourself, is this truly necessary? Or is this just an excuse to grab more power?
So don't let fear cloud your judgment. Good advice. What else does he say?
Let's see. Oh, he talks about the power of archetypes. Those classic hero versus villain stories.
Like good guys and bad guys.
Yeah. He says PSYOPs often exploit those simple narratives because they're so persuasive.
I mean, it's easier to get people on your side if you can paint a clear picture of good versus evil, right?
Exactly. But it also oversimplifies things. Real life is rarely that black and white.
Yeah, there are always shades of gray. So what do we do? How do we avoid falling for these archetypal narratives?
Well, you got to be willing to look for the nuances. Challenge the assumptions being made about the heroes and the villains.
Okay, so be wary of archetypes. Got it. What else is there?
He talks a lot about how to evaluate what he calls the frame of a narrative. It's like looking at the structure of a building. You need to understand the underlying framework to see how it's designed to support a particular message or point of view.
The frame. So what we're talking about, like the architecture of persuasion.
That's a great way to put it. And he breaks it down into 4 key elements: expectation, belief, perception, and definition.
Okay, that's a lot to unpack. Let's start with expectation. What does he mean by that?
When he's talking about, what does the narrative want you to believe or do? What's the intended outcome?
So it's about understanding the agenda, right? Like, what are they trying to get me to do? Okay, what about belief?
That one's all about the assumptions they're making about you, the audience. What are your values, your fears, your worldview?
I see. So they're tailoring the message to fit my existing beliefs.
Exactly. They're using your own beliefs against you to make their message more persuasive.
That's pretty clever. Okay, what about perception? How does that fit in?
That's about how reality is being shaped by the narrative. What information are they presenting? What are they leaving out? What are they emphasizing?
It's like they're carefully choosing what to show you and what to hide to create a certain picture.
Exactly. And that picture might not be the whole truth.
Okay, so we have to be aware of how our perception is being manipulated. What about definition?
This one's all about the truth they're trying to establish. What assumptions are being presented as absolute facts?
So it's like they're trying to control the narrative to define what's true and what's not.
Right. And once that definition is accepted, it becomes much harder to challenge.
Okay, so when we encounter a new narrative, we got to ask ourselves, what's the expectation? What beliefs is it appealing to? How is it shaping my perception? And what truth is it trying to establish?
Exactly. By understanding those 4 elements of the frame, we can start to see through the manipulation.
It's like we're putting on X-ray glasses. Okay, so we got the frame. What else?
Well, he also talks about information suppression.
Information suppression, like censorship.
Not exactly. It's more about when certain topics are avoided, critics are silenced, or alternative viewpoints are discredited.
I guess if you can control the information, you can control the narrative.
Right. And Hughes points out this interesting thing. He says that if an idea requires silencing dissent to survive, it's probably not a very good idea.
Yeah, that makes sense. They're trying to shut down debate. It's probably because they're afraid of what people might discover.
Exactly. And he also mentions this tactic of labeling critics as conspiracy theorists.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one a lot. It's like a way to dismiss someone's concerns without actually addressing them.
Exactly. It's intellectual laziness. It's a sign that their arguments are weak.
Okay, so watch out for information suppression. Got it. Anything else? My brain is getting full.
Oh, there's more. But I think we should probably save it for next time.
Next time. Seriously, there's still more.
Oh yeah, Hughes has a lot more to say about how these manipulators operate. But don't worry, we'll break it all down.
Okay, I'm both intrigued and terrified at the same time. All right, well, I guess we'll leave it there for now. Join us next time as we continue our deep dive into the world of PSYOPs. It's going to be a wild ride.
It certainly will.
Welcome back, everybody. So last time we left off talking about these cognitive dissonance weapons. Still kind of freaks me out just thinking about it.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But the more we understand about these tactics, the better equipped we are to resist them.
Right. Knowledge is power and all that.
Yeah.
So where were we?
Well, we were talking about how manipulators exploit our natural tendency to want to resolve cognitive dissonance.
That uncomfortable feeling you get when new information clashes with your existing beliefs.
Exactly. And they do this through these things called microagreements, remember?
Oh, yeah, those sneaky little concessions.
They might start with a statement we agree with, something that seems harmless, and then they slowly introduce more extreme ideas building upon that initial agreement.
It's like they're slowly shifting our whole worldview without us even realizing it.
Precisely. And, it's not always intentional. Sometimes people use these tactics without even being aware of it.
So how do we protect ourselves from this?
Well, awareness is key. The more we understand these tactics, the better we can recognize them when they're being used on us. And then when we do encounter information that challenges our beliefs, it's important to be willing to sit with that discomfort.
Yeah, instead of just trying to shut it out or rationalize it away.
Exactly. Give yourself time to process the information, to consider different perspectives.
And don't be afraid to change your mind.
Right. It's okay to evolve, to grow, to admit when we were wrong. In fact, I think it's a sign of intellectual honesty.
Okay, so we got to be mindful of microagreements. What else did Hughes talk about?
Well, one of the things he emphasized was the importance of following the money.
Follow the money.